Children, let us continue with the explanation. I am reading on page 6 of your textbook. In the last class, we read, children, that Aram and Murad, after enjoying their solo horse ride, were walking the horse quietly to a barn of a deserted vineyard. The presence of the horse was a secret between the two boys. Aram kept on asking Murad that from where did he get the horse, but Murad kept beating about the bush. He did not give a straightforward reply to Murad. Also, the horse was behaving quite well. It did not try to run away, and when Murad was hiding it in the vineyard, it was quietly there. So out of curiosity, Aram asked that how can he do all this, to which Murad answered, I have an understanding with a horse. Please pay attention, children. I am now reading from the book. I have an understanding with a horse, he said. Yes, but what sort of an understanding? I said. A simple and honest one, he said. If you remember, the horse was allowed to run everywhere and anywhere. There was no restriction on him. The boys were not forcing any particular direction upon the horse. It could run anywhere in the countryside. It could jump over the ditches, to the vineyards, to the green fields, wherever it felt like running. So this can be rated as a very simple and honest understanding between the young boy and the horse. Children, see, both of them are innocent to the core, and this innocence was the common link between the animal and the two boys, and they were able to strike a rapport. Well, I said, I wish I knew how to reach an understanding like that with a horse. I told you, children, that for Aram, Murad was a hero. Aram used to hero worship Murad. So what does he say? That I wish I could also reach an understanding with the horse just like you have. You are still a small boy, he said. When you get to be 13, you'll know how to do it. So what is Murad saying? He's making fun of Aram and he's saying that you are still a little boy. When you are 13, even you will know this skill. I went home and ate a hearty breakfast. Hearty breakfast means he was very happy, he was very satisfied, and that's why he enjoyed thoroughly his breakfast. That afternoon, my uncle Khosrow came to our house for coffee and cigarettes. Uncle Khosrow, we have already been introduced to Uncle Khosrow in the previous page, children. He sat in the parlor sipping and smoking and remembering the old country. Then another visitor arrived. So what was Uncle Khosrow doing? He was sitting in the drawing room, in the parlor, in the sitting room, and he was sipping and he was smoking. So sipping tea, a drink, and he was also smoking. He was also remembering, fondly remembering the old country. Old country means the countryside. Then another visitor arrived, a farmer named John Biro. Now the second visitor who visited the narrator's home was John Biro, an Assyrian who out of loneliness had learned to speak Armenian. So he was from Assyria and settled in Armenia. So because he was all alone over there and he wanted to get settled in Armenia, he had no choice but to learn the Armenian language so that he could easily adjust to the new place. My mother brought the lonely visitor coffee and tobacco, and he rolled a cigarette and sipped and smoked. So he also started drinking and smoking just to give company to Uncle Khosrow. And then at last, sighing sadly, he said, my white horse, which was stolen last month, is still gone. I cannot understand it. So he suddenly spoke, that I'm feeling really sad because my white horse has got stolen and it's been nearly a month now. I just cannot understand who could have done it. My uncle Khosrow became very irritated and shouted, "It's no harm. What is the loss of a horse? Haven't we all lost the homeland? What is this crying over a horse?" So what is Uncle Khosrow saying? He again got quite irritated and he said that loss of a horse is no loss. Loss of your homeland is something to be sad about. Why are you crying over a horse? It's no loss. Pay no attention to it. That may be all right for you, a city dweller, to say, John Biro said, but what of my Surrey? What good is a Surrey without a horse? Now, Uncle Khosrow stayed in the city, okay, and John Biro was not a city dweller, did not live in the city, he lived in the countryside. So, he was associated with all the farm activities. It was required of him to transport the agricultural products to the city to sell them, and for that he required his horse and his surrey. Surrey is the carriage, children, that is pulled by the horse. So he says that I can understand, Khosrow, you don't understand the loss of a horse. For you a horse is not so important, but think of me. I am associated with agricultural activities. I need it for transportation. And what good? What is the use of my carriage now? When my horse is not there, what will I do with my carriage? Pay no attention to it, my Uncle Khosrow roared. Now in his old manner, Uncle Khosrow roared, pay no attention to it. I walked 10 miles to get here, John Biro said. You have legs, my Uncle Khosrow shouted. Now another reason he put was that I had to travel 10 miles on foot. Had I my horse, I could have easily travelled. So what answer did Khosrow give? But you have got legs. Why do you worry? My left leg pains me, the farmer said. Pay no attention to it, my Uncle Khosrow roared. So again, in his same way, what did he say? That you don't have to pay attention to your legs. You don't have to pay attention to your legs. If it's hurting you, it's no harm. It's not a big issue. The horse cost me $60, the farmer said. Now the third point he is putting in, that why does the loss of the horse bother him, was that it was a costly horse. It cost him $60. So children, you can write down a question over here, that why was John Biro concerned with the loss of the horse? So why was he worried about it? How did it bother him? It bothered him. The 3 points are already given over here. The first one was that his carriage was useless without the horse. Second, he had to walk 10 miles. Means earlier he used to go from one place to another on his horseback, but now he had to walk those long distances. And third was that it was a costly horse. It cost him $60. I spit on money, my Uncle Khosrow said. Now what is Khosrow saying? That I don't care about money, I spit on it. He got up and stalked out of the house, slamming the screen door. My mother explained. He has a gentle heart, she said. It is simply that he is homesick and such a large man. So Khosrow, finally he left the house and he slammed the screen door. And then the mother, the narrator's mother, stood up to give an explanation to cool down the situation. She said that he may appear to be, a very hard man from the outside, but he has got a very soft and gentle heart. It's only that he behaves in this manner because he is homesick. And he's such a large man. Okay. Large man over here means what? Alone. Very heavy in his build. Okay. And at the same time, very lonely. The farmer went away and I ran over to my cousin Murad's house. Now all this conversation, who had overheard it? Aram, the narrator. And the moment John Biro left, Aram ran to his cousin Murad. He was sitting under a peach tree trying to repair the hurt wing of a young robin which could not fly. He was talking to the bird. Now these were all peculiar and strange ways, of Murad to develop an understanding with animals. So when Aram ran to Murad, what was he doing? He was trying to repair the hurt wing of a young robin. He was trying to fix the hurt wing of a young robin. Robin is a wild bird, children, because it was unable to fly. And at the same time, he was talking to the bird as if trying to comfort the bird. What is it? He said. The farmer, John Biro, I said. He visited our house. He wants his horse. You have had it a month. I want you to promise not to take it back until I learn to ride it. Just see now over here the conversation, children. Aram ran to Murad just to give him the information that this horse belongs to John Biro and he wants it. He even said that it has been over a month that he has lost his horse. But Murad, you promised me that you are not going to return the horse until I have learnt it how to ride perfectly. So see, this is what he came here for, to convince Murad not to return the horse. It will take you a year to learn to ride, my cousin Murad said. We could keep the horse a year, I said. My cousin Murad leaped to his feet. What? He roared. Are you inviting a member of the Garoghalanian family to steal? The horse must go back to its true owner. Now, Murad said that it's not an easy task. You will take almost a year to learn how to ride. So, quickly, what did Aram add? That okay, then we'll retain the horse for a year. And then what did Murad say? Are you crazy? We cannot keep the horse for a year. Then we would be labeled as thieves, that we have stolen the horse, and we cannot earn a bad name for our tribe, for the Garoghalanian family. We cannot afford to be called thieves. The horse must go back to its rightful owner, and that too soon. When? I said. In 6 months at least, he said. So what does Murad say? That if not a year, then at least in 6 months it should go back. He threw the bird into the air. The bird tried hard, almost fell twice, but at last flew away high and straight. Children, from this, what can you say about Murad's attachment to animals? He is quite, compassionate towards animals. He talks to them as if to comfort them. He does not restrict them or does not put any foundations on them, right? He sets them free. Here also, after attending the wound of the robin, after comforting him, he helps him fly. Okay, what does he do? He threw the bird into the air and helps him to fly. Early every morning for 2 weeks, my cousin Murad and I took the horse out of the barn of the deserted vineyard where we were hiding it and rode it. And every morning, the horse, when it was my turn to ride alone, leaped over grapevines and small trees and threw me and ran away. So, Murad was in a way able to control the horse, and he would enjoy his horse ride. They would go to the barn, out of the barn to the deserted vineyard where the horse would be set free, and he would run everywhere and anywhere. But when it was the narrator's time, he would always fall down. While on a solo horse ride, he would always fall down, as if the horse did not want Aram to sit on him. Okay, so he would drop him. You can say that he would drop him. Nevertheless, I hoped in time to learn to ride the way my cousin Murad rode. See again, underline this sentence. I hoped to learn to ride the way my cousin Murad rode. So he used to hero worship Murad. He wanted to attain perfection just like Murad. One morning on the way to Fetwagen's deserted vineyard, we ran into the farmer John Byro, who was on his way to town. So, whom did they meet face to face? John Byro, while they were going to that deserted vineyard. Let me do the talking, my cousin Murad said. I have a way with farmers. Now, see again what he says. Let me talk to him. You don't talk to John Byro. I have a way with farmers. I know what to tell him and what not to. Good morning, John Byro, my cousin Murad said to the farmer. The farmer studied the horse eagerly. So the horse was with them. And that time only they met John Byro face to face. Good morning, son of my friends, he said. What is the name of your horse? My heart, my cousin Murad said in Armenian. So he asked the name of the horse, and what did Murad say? That his name is my heart in Armenian. A lovely name, John Byro said, for a lovely horse. Okay, let me just scroll it down, children, for you. Okay. A lovely name, he said, for a lovely horse. He says that it's a lovely name and the horse is also very beautiful. I could swear it is the horse that was stolen from me many weeks ago. And what did he say? That I'm sure this is that same horse that got stolen from me many weeks ago. May I look into his mouth? Of course, Murad said. So in the mouth there could have been some identification mark, or it could be some sign of resemblance with his original horse. Okay, so he requested that, can I please see inside his mouth? So what did Murad said? Yes, of course, please go ahead. The farmer looked into the mouth of the horse. Tooth for tooth. He's saying that the arrangement of the tooth is exactly that of my horse. I would swear it is my horse if I didn't know your parents. What does it mean? Very important line. Please underline. He said that I'm sure this is the same horse that I lost. I could have, held you as thieves only if I didn't know your parents. I trust you people. I know you belong to the Garo-Galenian tribe, and I cannot believe that you boys have stolen my horse. The fame of your family for honesty is well known to me. He says that I know that your family is well known for honesty. Yet the horse is the twin of my horse. So I shall convince myself by saying this, that this is the twin of my horse. A suspicious man would believe his eyes instead of his heart. So what does he say? That, I am highly suspicious about this horse. I don't want to believe my eyes. I want to believe my heart. And my heart says that no, you children could not have stolen the horse because you belong to the Garo-Galenian family and your family is known for honesty. But how can I say that my eyes are not seeing something that belongs to me? Good day, my young friends. And by saying this, he left. Good day, John Byro, my cousin Murad said. Early the following morning, we took the horse to John Byro's vineyard and put it in the barn. The dogs followed us around without making a sound. Now what happened? The next morning, the two boys returned the horse to John Byro. They quietly tied him to his barn. And the dogs who were following the two boys did not make a sound. The dogs, I whispered to my cousin Murad. I thought they would bark. Now see again, the dogs could have, raised an alarm by barking, but nothing of the like happened. There was pin-drop silence. They would at somebody else, he said. I have a way with dogs. So again, the same statement by Murad. Had it been someone else, they would have raised an alarm. But because it's me and I have a way with dogs, they did not bark. My cousin Murad put his arms around the horse, pressed his nose into the horse's nose, patted it, and then we went away, as if it was a silent message saying, goodbye, friend. I have to go. Take care of yourself. So that was the last physical touch between Murad and the horse. That afternoon, John Biro came to our house in his surrey and showed my mother the horse that had been stolen and returned. I do not know what to think, he said. So that afternoon, John Biro again paid a visit to the narrator's house and shared it with the narrator's mother that, see, my horse had got stolen, but then finally it has been returned and I am happy about it. I do not know what to think, he said. The horse is stronger. Please underline again very, very important lines. What does he say? He adds that I don't know what to think. Whether I should be sorry that it had not been with me for so long, or I should be happy that it has been returned to me, or it has come back to me much stronger than ever. Now that I have him, he looks much more stronger and he is better tempered. He has become much more patient. I thank God. So he's saying that I am very thankful to God that my horse has returned to me. My uncle Khosrow, who was in the parlour, became irritated and shouted, quiet, man, quiet. Your horse has been returned. Pay no attention to it. So again, Khosrow ends the conversation in his own irritable tone by saying, your horse has been returned to it. Pay no attention to it. It's not a big deal. So with this, children, we have come to the end of the chapter. Please go through the video lesson again, and if there is a doubt, please feel free to ask. Thank you, class.